James Ferraro is an American musician, producer, and composer, particularly known for his experimental music. He began his career in the early 2000s as a member of the Californian noise duo The Skater, and after that began working on solo work under his own name and a variety of aliases, often doing small runs, sometimes on cassettes or on CDRs. And they have been released through several labels, at least one of which is his own label. He's had quite prolific outputs. Wikipedia lists an indicative discography of 39 albums. Hi, my name's Dan. So this is a kind of a request review. So the main thrust of my channel here is to review the 3,000 greatest albums of all time, according to a list at acclaimedmusic.com, which is a compiled list from many other lists in the same kind of way that Metacritic does things, but this covers a much larger time span. But I have occasional distractions, and one of them is to do reviews on request. I've kind of actually run out at the moment, of ones that are very clearly requests from people. But where people have suggested in the comments particular albums that I might listen to, I'm now kind of picking these up and taking these to be requests. So this is an almost request from somebody whose online handle is Skullcrusher6. So Skullcrusher6, I have, if you ever see this, I always have this thing when I'm doing request reviews, which is if I don't like something, I'm going to feel bad about saying bad things about something that somebody has obviously loved enough to suggest that I listen to it. But I do kind of feel like with an online handle of Skullcrusher6, maybe you're reasonably thick-skinned. We'll find out if you ever watch this. So I would describe this as definitely as experimental. It's kind of hip-hoppy. It's kind of certainly in the electronic kind of area of things. There's often kind of paddy sound space stuff going on here, and there's definitely R&B percussion going on. And by R&B percussion, I think there's kind of particular sounds that R&B tend to use for percussion, which is often quite tinny in its tone. So as well, alongside that, there's other noises. Some of them are kind of musical. Some of them are more definitely just sound effects and things that are in there. The note that I made here is I've described them as twinky and twerky sounds. I'm not really sure what I mean. It's just kind of the tone of them is kind of, it's not tinkly, it's just like the next level down from tinkly. It's kind of, yeah, twinkly and twinky. Along with all this, I mean, one of the things that I'm doing is that I'm kind of talking about what the average is here. There's lots of different stuff going on in different places, and it's in some ways there's quite a bit of diversity really. So I'm not going to try and describe all of it. On quite a few tracks, quite a few places, there's singing, and now there are two kind of real modes for the singing here, and these are James apparently singing, I believe that. So the mode one is out of tune singing, which is where it's, yeah, obviously he's, whether deliberately or not, he's not hitting the note that fits with the rest of the backing. Or the other mode is heavily auto-tuned, so using the auto-tune to really, get it in tune. So it's overall spacious. It's quite odd, definitely. If you like music that challenges the norm, then maybe you'll like this. I guess it all depends on what kind of things you like within that kind of big bracket of experimental music. So you might be getting the impression of how I feel about this, but let's be absolutely clear here. So I do like, in principle, experimental music, and that's the biggest thing that I would say is, for me, is in favour in this album. I don't like, generally speaking, modern R&B or hip hop. I'm more likely to like hip hop, actually, I think, than R&B. I'm not really sure what the distinguishing line is between them, but yeah, not really my kind of thing. I don't like the percussion on this album. It's better than some albums where they've got really tinny percussion. I don't know what it is why I don't like tinny percussion. Maybe it's a cultural thing, or it's definitely an aesthetic thing. I really don't like stuff that's out of tune. So I know that it's often done deliberately for a particular effect, and there are other parts of this music as well as the singing that are out of tune. There are bits of the kind of instrumental sounds in the background that I'm pretty sure must be deliberately out of tune, because the way technology is these days is actually you need to make that a deliberate thing. I would think, I'm not sure. So I think it's about deliberately tweaking the aesthetic rather than about just being incompetent at hearing whether something's in tune or not. My problem with this, so I know people do it for effect, as I said. My problem is that I do play several instruments myself, and some of those are instruments that you have to tune to make sure that they sound right. And so when something is out of tune, that jars me. And I feel like it's something that needs to be corrected, because that's something that I have had trained into me as a person playing instruments. So I don't like that. But also, which kind of feels like the flip side in this case, I don't like the hugely heavily obvious auto-tune. I think that my first big encounter was Cher's appalling song, Do You Believe in Life After Love, which was just... Anyway, and it might just be that song that I didn't like that put me off it, but I really don't like this sound of massively overtuned and over auto-tuned stuff. And again, this is very prevalent in modern R&B. So there's lots of stuff that I didn't like. There was an element of it that I kind of like isn't quite the right word, that I would applaud, which is I always think experimentation is good. I am acknowledging that all the things that I don't like here are aesthetic, and there will be people who love this for exactly the reasons why I don't like it, because they like these aesthetics and I don't like these aesthetics, and that's fine. I'm not trying to make any judgment on you if you like this, or on James making it, because obviously he's appealing to a particular audience. It's really just not for me. So when I listened to it twice, as I do most of the albums that I'm reviewing. When I wasn't really listening, I could almost ignore it. When I did listen carefully, it kind of wound me up. So, not a great fan. So, sorry, Skull Crusher 6. If you think that I've been unfair, I'm not trying to be unfair. I've just tried to give you my how I feel about it. I've tried to give it a reasonable description, I hope, of it. But it's really not my kind of thing. Other people might love it, and if you do, that's fine. And if you understand this better and the aesthetics, and you know why you like this kind of aesthetic that I don't, and you want to talk about it, I'd love for you to chip in, because I'm always happy to hear from people who get the bits that I don't get, as it were. So please, whatever your opinion is, don't be shy. Talk to me through the comments box. That's it from me for now.
But the doubt lies in the air without me, 'cause I just couldn't believe something so heavenly.